Good morning, everyone. We're going to give it just a few minutes while the people join us. We had a really good turnout for this session today. Okay. We're going to go ahead and start as people are continuing to come in. I would like to welcome you all to our webinar this morning and for joining us for the American Indian Alaska Native Tourism Association's webinar series. Today's webinar will focus on interpreting culture, tips for running a successful business. My name is Sherry Bowman. I am from the Pueblo of Laguna, and I am AIANTA's Education Support Specialist. I will be serving today as your moderator and managing the question and answers at the end of the presentation. For those of you who are not familiar with AIANTA, for nearly 2 decades, AIANTA has served as the national voice for American Indian nations engaged in cultural tourism. In addition to serving as the voice for Indian country tourism, AIANTA provides technical assistance and training to tribal nations and native-owned enterprises engaged in tourism, hospitality, and recreation. AIANTA's mission is to define, introduce, grow, and sustain American Indian, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian tourism that honors traditions and values. In addition to webinars like these, AIANTA is offering the Go International Virtual Conference on April 21st through the 22nd, 2021, designed to help tribal tourism businesses keep up with the rapid shifts in the package travel landscape. Go International features expert speakers and hands-on presentations that will guide tribal enterprises and businesses in conceptualizing and developing their tourism product and promoting them to tour operators, wholesalers, and domestic and international group travelers. You can register today at ianta.org/Go International. AIANTA also provides educational opportunities for tribes throughout our annual American Indian Tourism Conference, or AITC. The 2021 AITC event will be held at Fort McDowell, Arizona at the Wecopa Casino Resort, October 25th through the 28th, 2021. Please visit our website at ianta.org to learn more about our education programs and at ianta.org/AITC for additional information. A partnership between, I'm sorry, I just got lost a minute. Join us at ianta.org/AITC for more information and registration for the 23rd Annual American Indian Tourism Conference. We'd like to thank you again for joining us this morning for the Interpreting Culture, Tips for Running a Successful Tour Business webinar. During the free webinar, you will hear from panelists Jaslynn Begay, Marketing Manager with Antelope Canyon Navajo Tours, and Stacia Morfin, CEO of Nez Perce Tourism, who will discuss all the aspects of tour operations, from itinerary planning to hiring step-on guides to working with receptive tour operators and international wholesalers. Although Antelope Canyon Navajo Tours and the Nez Perce Tourism are not along the Anza Trail, we are hosting this session to encourage tour development along the Anza Trail, and to also encourage tour operators to consider adding history to their tours. Both the Lewis and Clark and Anza trails attract several visitors that would be interested in learning about Native stories along these trails. So I'd like to where did I have it? I printed the wrong one. We do have some poll questions this morning. We'd like to ask you to take some time to fill out. So if you could just look at the poll questions. What region do you represent? And if you could just click in your region you're from, which is Alaska, Eastern, Midwest Plain, Pacifics, or Southwest. The second question is, do you have a tour company? And the answer is yes or no. And number 3 is, are you interested in starting a tour company? So as those answers are coming through, we will give you a few minutes here. And these poll questions will be posted here shortly. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and share the results. And right now, the Pacific has the most attendance at 27%, followed by, oh, I'm sorry, the Southwest region, 37%, Pacific at 27%, followed by the Eastern at 14%. As far as owning a tour company, 76% says no. And if you're interested in a tour company, 62% says yes. So those are the poll answers. So at this time, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, who is Jaslynn Begay of the Dene Nation. She serves as the marketing manager for Antelope Canyon Tours. And for more than 5 years, she previously worked as a tour guide at the Upper Antelope Canyon for more than 7 years. During this time, her interaction with visitors helped her hone her marketing techniques, which she now brings to the Navajo-owned Antelope Canyon Navajo Tours. Jaslynn resides in the Page Lake Powell area with her family. So I would also like to introduce Stacia Morfin, who is with the Nez Perce Tourism and serves as the CEO. She started the woman and native-owned tour company Nez Perce Tourism, which shares the unique stories of the Nimipu people. She believes these stories of culture and tradition should be shared with accuracy and integrity while preserving the geoheritage of the area. From mountaintops to riverbeds, the overall goal for the Nez Perce Tourism LLC is to imprint Nimipu legacy into the spirit of each individual guest by introducing the power of place. During this webinar, Stacia will offer her top three tips designed to inspire others to start or enhance their own tourism operations. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Jaslynn.
Okay, all right, guys. Well, good morning, everybody. Yat ebine, Jaslynn Begay Yinisha, Maideshki Nishla, Zif Ahni Bashichin, Hashkan Hazoi Dashiche, Sinajini Dashanella. So, good morning, everybody. My name is Jaslynn Begay. I'm from the Lachii Page, Arizona area here in northern Arizona. It's pretty close to the southern Utah border as well, right along that borderline there. But I'm from Antelope Canyon Navajo Tours and Seb Tours. And we actually run a tour company out here into Upper Antelope Canyon. And go start the slides. So a little history about us here. We started up in 1992. The owner of Seb Tours is Bobby Begay. And we also have Antelope Canyon Navajo Tours, which is owned by Dalvin Etsity. We're out here in Lachii, Arizona, located on the Navajo Nation. And the Upper Antelope Canyon, the Navajo name for it is actually Tsepbaranlinet, and that actually means the place where the water runs through the rocks. We're located within the Lake Powell Navajo Tribal Park here in the area, in the Lake Powell Navajo Tribal Park. We also have the Lower Antelope Canyon. There's Waterholes Canyon. You have Antelope Canyon X. You have Antelope Point, Lake Powell. There's a ton of different sites that you can see that are located within this Navajo Tribal Park there. Let's see, go on to the next one. But for our particular company, we actually take visitors down the trail into the Upper Antelope Canyon. So what you see here is the different type of trucks that we use. We call them tour trucks. They're all 4x4 lifted trucks. As you can see, the terrain over here, it's pretty sandy. So in the summertime, when it's really hot, a lot of the moisture just gets sucked up by the sun. So that sand is it can turn into quicksand. So we have to make sure that our tour guides, they're very knowledgeable about how to handle the surroundings, such as the elements that they have to drive through, and then even handling the 4x4 trucks. But you'll see them there just kind of hanging out there in the back of the trucks. And that's the trail, the riverbed that we actually drive down. It's about 3 miles. So they're going on a little adventure in the back of the tour truck, seeing the different scenery. We have a lot of plants out there that are different. We have different type of geology around there as well. Let me move on up through here. But they'll take these visitors down into the entrance of the Upper Antelope Canyon. And as you can see here, they pull up their vehicles here, unload with the visitors. They go over the rules and the regulations. That way the visitors know, not to climb on the walls, not to ride on the walls, any trash they have, keep it on your persons, leave no trace. So that's what we really stress, is that they respect the environment that they're in, and to leave it pristine just as they found it. And a lot of our visitors, they're happy to oblige, and they even help remind other visitors too, and that's good because we're all on the same page there. Move on up. This is a bit of an aerial view of what it looks like. So to the eye, you wouldn't even know there was a slot canyon there unless you saw it. So I'm not too sure if there's a pointing ability. Sherry, can you see the mouse on here? No? Okay. Okay, so like I was saying, there's a little crack up here on the top. That's actually where the canyon's at. And the trucks, they park in the front, and they take the visitors through here. It's about an hour tour inside of there. This is the entrance where they enter at. So, before they go in, of course, they'll make sure their flash is off, make sure that they don't have any prohibited items going in there before they start. But on the tours, we have guided sightseers tours. And before we shut down in 2020 for the year, this was one of the tours that we offered. So we actually had 8 different tour times where we would take the visitors inside, and every tour guide, they would have a maximum of 14 people per guide. The tours were an hour and 30 minutes. It was a 15-minute ride down, 15-minute ride back, and they get an hour inside the canyon with their tour guide to kind of, learn about the history of the canyon, learn about the geology of the canyon, ask the tour guides, any questions, how it is to, be Navajo in this modern world. So in our tour guides, they do tell them, it's a lot of balance, because we have to make sure that we stay true to our traditions, as well as not getting left behind in the Western world as well. So with that being, all of our tour guides, you have to have training, and not just once in a while training, always ongoing training, to make sure that your guides are tip top, ready for any question that these visitors they may have. So on the tours there, I'm sorry, just pulled a blank, but on the tours there, they actually answer the questions that these visitors might have. And some people, when they come through, they still think we live in teepees, that we do a lot of the older stuff. And we're like, no, we live in houses now. Some of us, we still do have our traditional homes, which are hogans. And that's where we get to teach them, you know, about the different structures that we have in the traditional ways, as well as the plants that they see when they come on the tour, how those plants can be, you know, made into medicine or be made to, you know, into a type of tool to help them. They talk about the geology of the canyon, the different layers, how the canyons are formed, and they're formed by water and wind. So whenever it rains as well too, we get flash floods that flow through these riverbeds and into these canyons. They actually widen up these canyons as they go through. But here's some of the other ones. We also had a guided photography tour as well, where the tour guide would lead the groups through, about 1 to 8 people, between the times of 11 and 1:30, because that's when the sun was at its highest peak. But I believe that this one here, we discontinued towards the end of 2019. In 2020, we were actually ready to move forward to start doing the tours without these guided photography tours, so we could continue the flow inside the canyon. Let me see here. So here's some of the photos of what the chambers would look like once they got cleared out, and some of these photographers got their photographs inside. Oh, I missed one. It's going crazy, sorry. It's not going back. So we're actually missing a slide here, but that particular slide was talking about the solid foundations that you would have to have in there, such as your tour guides, making sure that they have the proper knowledge, your office staff to help keep, you know, the chaos, organized chaos, as we do get lots of people every day that come through. So we have to make sure that they're equipped with the knowledge and to make sure that they keep the flow, you know, to keep it smooth. We all work together in that capacity to make sure that, you know, every day we accommodate all the visitors that we can, and that they leave with an excellent experience and something that they didn't know about the Navajo people and the Navajo land out here as well. But, you know, a big part of everything that you have for your tour company, you want to also include marketing. So for us, you know, we started out with brochures. We handed out brochures, and we started in 1992. So that was quite some time ago, but with the help of the internet, of course, now you have people, instead of opening up their maps and saying, hey, where should we go? They actually are flipping through their Instagram, through their Facebook, through any type of social media. And now people, they see these pictures and they say, hey, I want to go there. So instead of, you know, opening up a big old map and trying to travel to us, they go to Google Maps and they say, hey, take me to Antelope Canyon. So in the world that we are in right now, we either have an Android phone or an iPhone. So with those two different devices, you can always map yourself as well onto those Google Maps, even getting yourself, registered on sites such as Yelp, my Google Business. You also want to create yourself a website. So visitors that are looking for you, they can find you directly on your website and get direct information from yourself. We also have, once you go out and start to get more widely known, you can get going to trade shows. And at these shows, you know, AIANTA, they hold excellent conferences as well. You also have state conferences that you can go to, tribal conferences that you can go to help spread the word about your company. because there might be somebody else there who sees your setup and they want to reach out to you to join up to do a partnership or do a collaboration to, you know, get yourself more widely known out there. So those are all things that you can put together. And while you're at the trade shows, these media kits, you want to have your probably a electronic version of your brochure, a high resolution photo, some photos like as you can see here on the slideshow. We got some of these pictures that we have that are ready to go for people who want to put up a like a marketing or how would you say it, a bulletin for you. So you would want to have that. Also your capacities and what you can offer them as far as bringing them to partnership with you with your company. Whew. Sorry guys, a little jittery. But you also can use your local radio stations as well. We work with our local radio station too. A lot of the visitors that come through here, they're listening to radio, and on that radio, they hear your advertisement or they hear, you know, something that you're sponsoring, or, you know, we do a lot of sponsorings for sport events for the local high school around here. So it's always good to work together with your local community to make sure that these things that the type of marketing that you're putting out can also help others as well. So for us, when we get pretty backed up, we just start telling people, you know, hey, this tour group over here, they have openings and they'll be happy to, you know, take those visitors in. And we tell them, you know, these guys have openings. So in the summertime, we're constantly helping each other out by having having the visitors not feel left out and telling them that there's something else, you know, you just go this way, there's another company over there that's ready for you and they'll be able to take you. But you also want to include the input of your elders. So on this slide here, you know, a lot of this wouldn't be possible without I'm missing another picture, but without you know, the Navajo Nation as well, the Navajo Nation Parks and Recreation, Discover Navajo, the community of Lachi, and as you can see here, we have my great grandmother Pearl Begay and my great grandfather Dan Begay. So a lot of the history and the stories that we share with our visitors, you know, they come from the elders around here. So they talk about the times when they had their sheep camps out here, or they had their cattle and they moved them across through this area, and how they would use the canyon here to rest and to have shade inside them, or even playing in them as kids. So the elders around here in the community, they do hold a lot of information about the area, and all you have to do is ask, and they'll be happy to share all that information with you. So gathering information about the area that you're trying to have visitors come into, that will help put that special touch to it, and that it's authentic and meaningful. Okay. But that's the end of my presentation here. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. All of our information's here on the board.
Okay, Katsiaya, Jaslyn. It looks like we do have a lot of questions in the chat box, and so feel free to go ahead and tune in anytime that you would like to throughout the next presentation, which will be Stacia Morfin with Nez Perce Tourism LLC. That is myself. Jazz, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Tatsmewi, ina waniktuas kusnim kesknuat, soyapa waniktuas Stacia Morfin, tats pa'ain. What I said is, good morning. My name is One Who Takes Care of Water, also known as Stacia Morfin. I am owner and operator of Nez Perce Tourism, LLC. Go ahead and click to next slide, please. I am owner and operator of Nez Perce Tourism, LLC, located in the heart of Nimipu country, which is a large landscape that encompasses a vast area in North America, specifically the Pacific Northwest. So today I'm going to be briefly touching on a few of the topics in which we could take so much time getting into each of these. And they're in no particular order, but all very influential in interpreting culture and how to run a successful tourism business. So it is our hope that Jazz and I can inspire you to either start up your own tourism business, hopefully as an entrepreneur, perhaps as a relationship with a tribal department or entity. And then also to be able to, if you're already in the tourism business, to please, we hope to enhance what you're already doing. We hope to give you some skills and some ideas and some tools that you can to enhance the guest experience that you currently have. So just real quickly, some of the things that I'm going to be going over is what is traditional ecological knowledge? What is sacred versus secret versus widely known and commonly shared? And Jazz touched on that a little bit too, about making sure that you run things by your elders, that the information that is passed to our visitors, or whether it's internally through our guided services, is something that is done in a very respectful way. I'm also going to briefly touch on cultural preservation versus exploitation, because let's face it, there have been several relationships in the past that we've developed with non-tribal people as Indigenous people that have really quickly turned into exploitation. And I'll get into some examples as we navigate through the rest of the slides. Also, the importance of market research. That's a huge thing that we're going to do, especially in the developmental stages of starting your tourism operation. And then lastly, I'm going to cover just real briefly how collaborative partners can strengthen your value proposition. Next slide, please. In this next slide, I'm going to go ahead and share a quick video that I was able to do with Nimipu Fund and the IDRS Acorn Project. Nimipu and Indigenous people aren't a history. Probably realize that there's a huge Indigenous movement happening all across Indian country. And some say that it started with the Standing Rock Sioux and their stance against their sacred water. Several of us as Indigenous people from other nations went and stood with them. But I think they left a very important and extremely lasting legacy across the world and reminded people that Nimipu and Indigenous people aren't a history. We aren't a thing of the past, that we are still here today and that we have a voice. So knowing that people are interested in learning more about the old ways, learning more about our legends, our history, our ways of life, why we are so forgiving, why are we so hospitable, why did we choose to save Lewis and Clark's life instead of hindering them? And along with that, there's a lot of roles and responsibilities of Nez Perce, of women in general. And through the story of Lewis and Clark, it's beautiful because there was one woman. Her name was Wet Puis. And as we encountered them coming across the Bitterroot Mountains in 1805, there were prophecies in Nimipu country that let us know these creatures were coming. And at the time when we saw Lewis and Clark, we knew that they were going to have fish-like eyes, green and blue eyes. We heard that they were going to have upside-down faces, bald on top, beards on bottom. But we didn't know what we were going to do when we did finally encounter them. And there was one woman who stood up, and her name was Wet Puis. Her name is lost and now found. She was captured by an enemy tribe. And through that captivity, she was traded multiple times between other tribes and non-tribal people as well. And so the last group of folks that she was able to live with was a family who loved her, and she loved them with all her heart too. And so it was a really hard decision she made when she was given the opportunity to stay with this family or to move home to her Nimipu family. And of course, she chose to move home.
So while Lewis and Clark came across the Bitterroot Mountains, she was an old woman. So it puts into perspective how influential women are and were for this expedition and their survival. So if it weren't for Wet Kuis, we don't know what we would have done with this expedition and group. And it could have changed history, it could not have. But we have people who are willing to share that information from our perspective, which is extremely unique. There are many journals and ledgers of other people's encounter with us as Indigenous people, but it's not from our perspective and it's not from our truth. There are many cultural values that are left out of the Lewis and Clark journals that they don't understand. And so for us to be able to share that with the world and put into perspective that we are a helpful, accommodating, hospitable, smart, determined, brave nation is something that's very important for me. And it's completely different from my competitors. They are able to share our story from our voice. And that's what people are looking for, is authenticity.
Okay, so thank you for tuning in there to that part of the video. And that was a very influential part and pivot to starting Nez Perce Tourism LLC and relating it to the Nez Perce Trail and relating it to the Anza National Historical Trail. So one of the questions that I ask you as you determine whether or not you would like to start a tourism agency, go ahead and change it to the next slide, is do you already have an established national trail near you? Do you have a national park service or museum near you? Do you have an established state or local museum that is sharing your culture, your tradition, your voice from another perspective other than from the tribal, the nation, the people's perspective? Do you have an enterprise or a department within your tribe who has a cultural tourism related business? And, let's look at it from a large picture point of view. A cultural tourism related business could be an enterprise such as a casino, overnight accommodations, a hotel, a restaurant. Do you guys have gas stations? Do you have golf courses? Do you have event space? All of these things also encompass forms of cultural tourism and could be repositioned in a way that attracts our domestic and international travelers. And so let's face it, with the pandemic, domestic travel is going to be extremely important, especially, within the 500-mile radius from where your homeland is or where your people live at. And so again, for us, our land base is so vast. Originally, over 19 million acres of Nimi Puhon land is what we accessed and what we were responsible for. So when we look at that on a large scale, and I'll get into that a little bit later in showing you a map of where we're located, but that's a big area of culture, knowledge, and traditions that are still alive. These things are still embedded in the soils, in our fingernails when we gather our foods. They are embedded when we go and harvest our animals for food, for clothing, for tools, in which we still practice today. And so earlier, Jazz did mention some things that some of our non-tribal visitors still believe. And I'm glad that they asked these questions because honestly, we still do practice, a teepee ceremony. We still do practice some of these old ways, but they're very sacred to us. And some things, are shared and some things are not. But when it comes to ecological traditional knowledge from academia, this is something that is very important, but it goes deeper than the cumulative body of knowledge and beliefs handed down through generations by cultural transmission about the relationship of living beings. And that includes all living beings, elements of life, humans, organisms, and then with one another and their environment. Further, traditional ecological knowledge is an attribute of societies with an historical continuity in resources, use practices by a large and are non-industrial or less technological advanced societies, many of them indigenous or tribal. And the reason I decided to use this specific definition is because it was done by tribal people. And the site is found in Berkus 1993-3. But when you look at traditional ecological knowledge, we could sit here for months trying to come up with a definition and examples of those core values. And I wanted to show a picture of my family. We have 4 generations here. My daughter, Kaimas Nimlatis, Camus Lily, all the way up to my aunt, or, you know, in other words, historically, my grandmother. So she's my grandmother's sister, and we didn't have a word for auntie and for uncle. It's a very colonial Western ideal that has been brought into us, which is fine, but my grandmother. So I have myself, my daughter, my sister, my grandmother. So 4 generations of people are represented here. So it is my hope that we always look back and know who we come from and where we come from. And that is deeply woven into the landscape that we're at. So right now that photo is taken at Wowawi, which is where the 2 rivers meet near Spalding Park, present day Lapway, which is located on the Nez Perce Reservation. So next slide, please. Another one of the important factors of getting into the tourism industry or starting your own tourism-based company is market research. And so market research is the process of collecting, analyzing, and interpreting data about the target market, customers, customer segments, competitors, and just the industry as a whole. And so when I was given this directive by my ancestors to start this tourism company, I felt like I wasn't equipped. But when your ancestors, when your elders tell you to do something, you don't sleep on it. You don't wait a week on it. You don't wait 3 months on it. You do it as soon as you are told. So when I got this very direct, basically order that you are the chosen one to start a tourism agency within Nimipu country, I acted on it right away. And this came to me at one of our power places. When my daughter and we went hiking, and I just felt that there was something I needed to do. And so we went to the top of this mountain. I hiked up in my Kelty backpack, and we started singing, you know, one of our old Nez Perce songs. And we sang the first verse, second verse, and into our third verse, a man appeared to me and told me what I was going to do. So these very important directives that are given to us through prophecy, through visions, through our ancestors, through our elders, is very important for us to act upon very quickly. But through the market research process, that took over 2 years for me to be able to establish. So for market research, for us, I know that in 2018, there were 164 tourism-related businesses in the Lewis and Clark Valley, which is about 60,000 people. 164 of those were already tourism-related businesses. 90% of those which were already trying to tell the story of the Nimipu, sharing the story of the Snake River, of Hell's Canyon, of the Clearwater River, of Lewis and Clark Expedition and the Nez Perce, the roles that we played. And so 90% of them were sharing our story. Not one of them were Nimipu, not one of them were Nez Perce, not one of them were contracted through the tribe, nothing. And so that was an extremely important time for me to be able to say, oh my goodness, we have an opportunity. And this opportunity is to be able to move forward, to share our stories from our perspective, from a place of healing, from a place of love, and out of respect. And so market research is extremely important. And I have lots of different market research portals that I can share with you. You know, a big partner of mine is Idaho State Tourism. You might have local or regional tourism associations that are already developed who have a lot of this data interpreted that have been shared. So they pay big money to get these market researches and these strategies completed to make sure that when the next person moves in, you know, where are our areas of most need? Do we need more hotel rooms? Do we need more transportation? Do we need another jet boat company? Do we have space for a rafting company? And so if we take it back step back and look at, so for us, for our river systems, there is certifications that you have to be able to get, and they're very limited. For example, for us, for rafting the riverbeds of the Nez Perce and jet boat, here are the echoes of our ancestors jet boating tour, in which here you see a picture of, and this picture was actually taken during the COVID-19 pandemic. And so what we did is we were able to run at a 25% capacity at one point. And all of these people who booked this tour, which had to be 12 or more, but not more than 16 on a 42-person jet boat, we were able to book this trip in a very safe and a very clean environment. And of course, a way that shares our story from our perspective. But look at the emotion that you can see and that you can feel just in this image. And this is alive and it's dynamic, and it goes throughout every single one of our tours. So there isn't a tour that we offer that you can't feel that love and that excitement and that truth. And sometimes, you know, I even get a little bit emotional because of the just the feeling and the strength that we get from our elders and our ancestors that comes through us. And so if you're that willing vessel to move forward in tourism, it's a very big responsibility. I'll put it that way, but it's also extremely liberating. Go ahead and change it to the next slide. And my biggest thing that I love the most is being able to work internally with my tribal people, with my with our youth, and being able to remind them of who they are, and to remind them that they have a voice, and for our young women to respect yourselves, because these are the values that our ancestors left for us. To be able to instill the values into our children is a huge part of cultural tourism and preservation as well. And there's a big respect piece that is to that. And so, like I said, it's a big responsibility. But then also when we get into the collaboration with your partners and how to strengthen your value proposition, this is really important. And so your value proposition is a powerful tool to drive sales and to build a customer base. But notice when I started out internally, I always like to start with your people, because without your people, without Jazz's family, without the knowledge that they have and embedded in generations of Denaye, they won't have a tourism operation. And so it's important that we respect our people, and that we utilize them to the best of our ability, not into a point where it's exploitation. But without the Nimipu people, we don't have a story to share. So we don't go and talk about all of the atrocities that we faced, you know, in the fight of 1877, and then, you know, the 1855 treaty, and followed by the Thief Treaty of 63, and then, you know, the Dawes Act, which cut our land base even more. I mean, we don't talk about, we lightly touch on, you know, the boarding school era, but the legacy that we want to leave, and that I encourage you to leave as well, is we talked about it in the video, is that we're still here, and that the indigenous peoples of North America, of this world, have been here for thousands of years. Just recently, there has been archival science-based evidence that the Nimipu have been on the Snake River specifically for over 16,000. That's 16,000 years. So that puts into perspective the value of knowledge that we hold, and the connection that we have with our people, our places, and the spirits that live within us all. But the value proposition is really important too, because it talks about the monetary opportunities and funnels that will be able to streamline how you can be a successful business. So one of the pain points, so a value proposition is the most important thing in your business model canvas. And the business model canvas is something that is a really good place to start out as. It talks about, you know, what's your value proposition? And that means, what is the pain point that you are providing your customer that they aren't able to receive somewhere else? And so through the market research, I discovered that our audience is looking for authenticity. And remember that word as you navigate through cultural tourism, authenticity. They're looking for the real life people. They're looking for the Denaye people. They're looking for the Nimipu people, for the Blackfeet, for wherever you're located. They're looking for you. They want you. They don't want to go to a park service with somebody in a hat sharing the story of you. They want to meet you. They want to see you and feel you and learn about you and hear what you have to say, hear your songs, hear the drum beat. They want to be able to hear your legends and your stories. They want to feel that connection. And so I just really encourage you that you find that value proposition and you think about the word authenticity and how you as an individual can provide that value proposition to customers. Another one of the important parts of the business model canvas is your collaborative partners. Go ahead and change it to the next slide. So your collaborative partners is something that is huge for us. And so we have done hundreds of collabs with people across North America. This is one of them that we actually volunteered to do as a community-based project. We spent just our own time and dollars on making sure that we provided this opportunity for the Courageous Kids Climbing. And what it is, it's opportunities for children with special needs. And this was one of the most impactful tours that we were able to collaborate on. And so if you get a chance, look up Courageous Kids Climbing, see if you have one in your area. We work with the Nez Perce National Historical Park, the University of Idaho Disabilities Development Program, the Clearwater River Casino, and then of course, Nez Perce Tourism, LLC. Let's try and see if we can play the video, Sherry. If not, that's okay, but I'll go ahead and talk about what we did through this process. Right here, we have an imitation eagle feather, a beaded eagle feather that we're passing around these group of children. And one of the things that it was is, they were mentally handicapped in the sense of sight. And so in the back of the picture, you can see one of the girls, and one of the girls happened to be a tribal girl. And that was a surprise to us because we didn't know whether the folks were going to be tribal or non-tribal, but she's actually from the Coeur d'Alene tribe, one of our sister tribes just north of us, in which we do have huge strength and opportunities with them because Dee Dee, she runs the cultural tourism department. If you have a chance, also look up the Coeur d'Alene Casino. It's an actual tribal entity, a department that has ran through their enterprise. But Dee Dee has a big vision for the Pacific Northwest. And so her and I collaborate on large tour groups. She actually comes down and comes and does the jet boat tours and the whitewater rafting and offers not only perspectives of the Coeur d'Alene, but also perspectives of the Nimipu, and to be able to put two tribes that have worked together so well in the past together and being able to share, cost share some of this stuff with us is something that's a huge deal for the Coeur d'Alene tribe to do because they don't need to. They don't have to invite the Nimipu to be a part of what they're doing, but they do. And so keep in mind too, as a heads up, here next month in March, we're going to be doing another collaboration up at the Coeur d'Alene Casino. And so instead of having their annual powwow, we're going to be doing a celebration, a dinner celebration. And so we will be up there for next month. But this was just one of the examples. And what we did is we made sure that we brought a drum group to the video or to this opportunity for the Courageous Kids Climbing. So that, like, again, they were able to hear our voices. I had a regalia on and I decided to wear a jingle dress that day, I believe it was. And so they could hear the jingles and the importance of the jingles clapping together and healing and the movement. And you can, it was outdoors. So like Jazz was saying, you can feel the wind, as you go through her canyon, you can feel the wind, the very cleansing spirit that comes through when we have events outdoors. And that's one of the great things I love about Antelope Canyons too, is that they're completely based outdoors where people can feel the power of the sun, feel the power of the wind, feel and smell the dust and the dirt. I mean, these elements to us are so important. The 5 elements that keep us all connected as people, Black, white, native, whatever it is we all have 5 things that we need to survive, and including the elements and organisms of our soils and all of the elements of life. But we all need air, we all need light, we all need the earth, we all need water, and we all need the spirit. And so each of us, as long as we're able to convey these similarities in a way that connects us together rather than, bridges us apart, I think tourism is also that bridge to help gap some of those identities and those similarities that we all have. Go ahead and change it to the next slide, please. But yeah, just the look on those kids' faces was so influential for me as a tour operator and as the owner of Nez Perce Tourism, LLC. because there was nothing like what we saw on their faces and the excitement that they shared in hearing and knowing that we were there for them. And so that was one of my favorite tours of last year. This one is another partnership we did. I'll just touch on it real quickly because, like I said, we had a lot of partnerships we've done over the last few years. We started our tourism company in 2019, and we have just been taken off. We have had a lot of really good response from our local and regional other tourism associations that are already developed. But the thing is, you know, as an Indigenous woman-owned business, I wasn't invited at these tables. But when the Nez Perce show up, we show up in a bold way. And so I made sure that our voice is heard. I make sure that our story is told, and I make sure that I work with our elders and our local partners to do that. But like I said, you know, there's a lot of people perhaps in your tribe that aren't a fan of cultural tourism, and you have to be prepared for that as well. It is there's a very fine line with sharing authenticity, sharing culture of your people, and exploiting that. And so there are going to be people who challenge you. But in that prophecy that I told you guys about earlier, I was warned of this, and my ancestor told me, thank those people who challenge you. And remember that cultural value of discipline, and the value of discipline that the Nimipu believe in is when we learn something, we first observe, and then we try it. And then our elder or somebody will correct us, not in a way of diminishment, not in a way of getting after you, but getting after you because they love you and they want you to do a good job. And so I was warned that there was going to be people who were very skeptical of starting a tourism company because of the broken promises we've had with a lot of our non-tribal people. And I understand that. But for this one in particular, we were selected as the number 3 beautiful downtown Lewiston event of the year. And what we did is we strengthened partnerships that led to the Art Walk growth. So again, we worked with the Nez Perce National Historical Park, Nez Perce Tourism, the Idaho-Washington Symphony, the Lewiston Civic Theater, and then also beautiful downtown Lewiston. And what we did is we provided an elder, Alan Pinkham Sr. He's great. I think he's pretty connected with some of the original founders of AIANTA. I think like with Gail and things like that. But you know, Alan has been extremely instrumental and helpful guiding me through the tourism process, and so have other folks like the Circle of Elders, and we'll get into that here shortly. But I do dance 3 styles. I do the fast and fancy shawl, which you see here, the jingle dress, and short fringe as well. And so we were just able to go ahead and head to the next slide. We were just able to go to, and I saw that there was somebody from Hawaii on the line. So welcome. We had such a great time with your peoples, the Indigenous peoples of Kona last week. My sister and I went and did a cultural exchange, and it was great. It was extremely influential and powerful for me to go to your land and learn your legends and be a part of your language. And it was cool because, you know, as soon as we get off the airplane, we took another COVID test, and we went to get our rental vehicle, and the lady who was driving the van, she was terrorizing my husband first thing. And my husband's not like me. He's really shy, and Jazz knows he's really shy, really reserved, really respectful. And not that I'm not, but you know, she started terrorizing him first thing. And it was good. It felt good. Like we were home, like, you know, she was a relative that we've known her forever. And she was even neighing, like she neighed at us, and she told a joke, and she go, "Nay." And I was like, we're home. This is where we're meant to be. You know, our other brothers and sisters of the, you know, Indigenous families were here. And so we felt very connected. We felt like we were supposed to be there. And so I was thankful for her. She was great. She drove the Hertz van in Kona. So this lady is awesome. She gave us a good welcome, whether she thinks she did or not. So that was really nice. And I'm thankful that we had that experience with them. Some of the other things that we had talked about real briefly is we shared our origin stories. And every single nation in the United States, you know, there's over 550, I believe, tribal nations, but we also have more than that who aren't federally recognized. And so we want to make sure that we share our own origin stories. And it was great because our spirit, our main character in all of our legends is Itiaya. it's Coyote, and he's in every single legend, and he teaches us values through these legends. And still, when I go and I sit with my elders, when I share these legends with my daughter, I mean, it's like we've heard them for the first time because we love them. We're so connected and embedded into our language and our legends that this is just what we do. And so the same with them, they have origin stories, and so do you. Each nation has an origin story. And even just that one thing alone is extremely influential when you start your tourism company, is to think about the origin stories of your people and share that with your guests that come by. Another really easy thing that you could do to start your tourism agency is do the market research and look at what is already established, besides the museums, besides the trail operations, besides, are there established powwows? Are there established events that are already open to the public that you might need an extra guided service on? There's a lot of my non-tribal friends who would love to attend a powwow, but don't understand the norms and the respect that they're supposed to do. So they back away. They're intimidated because they don't want to do something wrong. And so to be able to provide a guided service for a powwow setting would be something that you could also look at. There's all kinds of different ideas that you could kind of test the market and see if that's really the fit for you. And I would love to answer any questions later on too. But just as far as entrepreneurial opportunities in cultural tourism, I just put a quick 1 through 5 basis, but these are really important. So you want to look at the overall industry, and of course, focus in on cultural tourism. What is your story? What is your narrative? And it looks like we only have a few minutes left, so I'll try and hurry through these last few slides. But also, what does your micro environment look like? Does that look like, do you have the local, the state agencies? Do you have Forest Service? Do you have the BLM? Who do you have available that could help you navigate through this established tourism business? The business model canvas and creating multiple revenue streams is extremely important. When I saw Jazz's, big souped up trucks, I mean, that's huge. I want to go on that tour just for the truck. And that was before I even saw the beauty inside and the history and the legacy inside the canyon. That would just be really cool to have an experience like that with, like my husband and my daughters. But being able to look at your business model canvas from a strategic perspective and start building those blocks, even if it's just an idea, write it down on paper, do an open thinking concept and think of, events or partners that you can partner with, or some values that you want to focus on with your tourism company, and start connecting those. Number 3 is the tourism income generators. Packaging is extremely important. Working with your local partnerships if you can. If you have everything all figured out as far as doing it by yourself, good luck. But my biggest thing is, as people in general, not just Indigenous people, but people in general, the 3 hardest words is I need help. And I want to encourage you to please put that away and ask for help. AIANTA is such a great resource for anything tourism related. Also, the IDRS Acorn Project is. I know Jazz. Myself. There are some pretty great people in tourism who are willing to help if you're serious about it. Partnerships and packaging. Packaging could look like an overnight excursion with 2 nights at your local casino hotel, a jet boat tour, or a historical site tour, and a dinner tour. That's a package. That's an easy package that you can sell to somebody coming in town for the weekend. And so just looking at packaging and what that would look like, investing in employees and community. Jazz touched on that just real briefly. They do all kinds of sponsorships, it sounds like, with their local community, whether it's events, whether it's maybe their chambers or whatnot. But investing in your employees is something huge. So one of the first things that we've implemented this year during COVID-19 is every single one of our guides has to take a Nez Perce language class. And so that's really important for us to embed the language into our tours. Just real quickly, Nez Perce Tourism revenue streams, target marketing services and tours. Just recently we pivoted, and I'll just go over that real quickly. Go ahead and head over to the next slide. So some of the list of services that we offer is Hear the Echoes of Our Ancestors Jet Boat Tour. It's a 3-hour tour designed to not exhaust our audience, because there are other tours that are 9-hour tours. And I did the market research again. I'm going to say that word over and over again, market research. I've noticed that the passengers that go on the full day excursions are extremely exhausted by the end of that day. But when you go on the 3-hour Hear the Echoes of Our predecessor's jet boat tour, they are exhilarated. They are willing to spend more time in the area, to go on another tour, to visit a local shop and spend money on the local places. Dinner with a Nez Perce, transportation services. You see a picture of me with the US DOT van number, the Nez Perce Tourism van, whitewater rafting, Appaloosa horseback riding, Nez Perce history bike tours. And we're continually adding new tours, especially, in the face of times of the pandemic. Go ahead and head to the next slide, please. So this is what we've done, and I'm really excited about it, you guys. We pivoted to develop another revenue stream during the midst of a COVID-19 pandemic, and we opened up a gift shop in beautiful downtown Lewiston, in the heart of Mimi Poo country. And so Traditions Gift Shop is the name of it, but what we've been able to do is we've been able to disperse $50,000 in the last 5 months to local and tribal artists to be able to create this space of an artisan market. And what we've also done is we've also started an e-commerce line. So we do have a website. Everything is found at nezpercetraditions.com. All of our tours, all of our gift shop opportunities and things like that. If you are a local tribal vendor, please get with me and let me know if you do sell wholesale. We do live by the business model of buy wholesale, sell retail. So if you're interested, please get with me. The information will be at the end of the slide as well. But this has been extremely instrumental in helping preserve the Nez Perce tourism legacy. We probably don't have as much capital as Jazz and her family and their organizations because we're a lot newer, but we really had to get innovative and try to find ways to continue that revenue stream flow of money coming through Nez Perce tourism. And without the local help of our and the local talent and the art mediums that were used here, we would not have been able to do that. So to be able to provide financial stability for our local artists is a big deal. And it's neat being a small part of that intersection. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to put in a really quick plug here too. So also in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, I started a contracting business. So we own Nez Perce Tourism LLC, Nez Perce Traditions, and we also have Nez Perce Contracting. And so we do have a save the date. The Nez Perce tribe back in 1996 bought the oldest and largest collection of all the plateau peoples. And so what we did is we bought back our Spalding Island collection that was housed over in Ohio since 1996. And so this is a really neat collection because there's 21 of the items. And so what we're doing is we're decolonizing the whole journey that these items went on. You can see, I mean, that old women's saddle, look at that. The parfleche panels, the bones for the structure of the saddle. I mean, that is old and that's powerful. And we have a lot of learning to do just by looking at that one piece. We have a women's dress, we have a men's medicine shirt. We have, I mean, all these great things that we have to look at and to study and to become inspired by. But we do want to invite you June 26, 2021 to come to the Nez Perce National Historical Park, be a part of this big renaming celebration that we're going to be doing as a nation. We would love to have you there. We are also going to be doing some online lectures and things. And so I'll be sure that I get with AIANTA and see how we can cross promote these things. I did see that somebody had a question. I think it was Lyndon about the media kits. Let's get together maybe afterwards and I can show you what Nez Perce Tourism media kit looks like, and also the Spalding Island collection media kit that I put together as well as the project coordinator. And then someone did ask too if Ann McCormick still work for the tribe. Yes, she does. She does still work with the tribe. And then David asked, what are the hours that we instill into our guides? And that's a everyday 24/7 process as far as, working with our guides, making sure that they understand what they're doing and who they're representing and what we want to accomplish as a company. But that's a forever learning thing that I'm going to do. I as a student, as a forever student, is making sure that our guides are well equipped. And I had to learn from trial and error. Go ahead, next slide. That some of the people that you think have all this knowledge, it's really hard for them to convey that to an audience, and who you would think would be, really good at it is not as good as you would hope. And so learning, who can present, who holds the knowledge, and there's a big entertainment piece also to tourism. So you have to be able to weave these things together in a way that's respectful and that people can understand. But I did just want to touch on real quick again the importance of the Anza Expedition Trail. and also the Nez Perce National Historical Park Trail. And so if you are located, I believe it's in the state of Arizona and California, through the Anza Trail, think of ways that you can enhance the guest experience. It looks like there's a market for it, because I don't think AIANTA would get involved in something like this if there wasn't a niche market for it already. So I do encourage you, if you're a tribal entity, a sovereign individual, to look at this trail and see how you can enhance that experience, because it looks like there's already been doing some marketing on that. But we have a, go ahead.
We do need to wrap it up. Sorry. We don't want to take, up everybody's time. We do allow an hour for these webinars. So I'd like to let you all know that we will be posting this webinar to the AIANTA website, and we will send all you registrants an email link. And if you have any questions for us, I believe Bianca put our email addresses in the chat box. Please send us your questions and we will answer everything offline. So if you are not a member of AIANTA and would like to be, please contact Gail Shehak by email at gchehak@aianta.org. Thank you, ladies. It was wonderful. It was a great presentation. We appreciate you. And thank you everyone for joining us, and you all have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you, Jazz. Love you guys.
Thanks.
Have a good day, everybody.
You too.